Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the latest bonus episode of the Stephen King podcast. This is bonus episode number 4, and this time I have with me a Calgary, Alberta, Canada writer who writes young adult paranormal, and her name is Katherine Dell. Hi, Katherine.
Hello.
Did I get it all right?
Yes. Well, paranormal thriller. Let's tack that up.
Okay. So, paranormal thriller. So you are another one of a series of writers that I've been able to interview, and thank you very much for coming on board. And I hope that we're going to have some fun.
Yeah, definitely.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? When did you get the writing bug? Have you always had it? Are you an avid reader? Or what's the moment that's sort of sparked you to try to do this?
Okay. Well, it was definitely probably about 7 or 8 years ago that I kind of got the writing bug. You know, I had just had my second baby, and before having kids, I was an executive assistant for a media company and an event planner as well. And having that as a career and then having young children and a family doesn't really mix anymore. So I'm like, this is a great time to reinvent myself, to start something new. Or even to go back to school and learn a different trade or craft or skill.
Right.
After the kids were born, thinking about that. And, I didn't really discover my love of reading probably into my late 20s.
Wow.
But yeah, even more so after I had kids. We didn't have a lot of money. We were first starting out. My entertainment was my library card.
Yeah.
So, and then I was like, I can do this. And I started to read books about, how to write well. I took a couple classes from Mount Royal back when it was a college, not yet a university. Things like that. And then part of trying to become a writer, I think, is just planting your butt in that chair and actually writing, and then taking the constructive criticism and learning from it, networking, surrounding myself with people who are also in the industry and trying to build themselves up as writers. So that's kind of when I got the bug, probably 7, 8 years ago. And this particular book that just came out, that one took me a couple years to write and probably a couple years to publish, but it's been a journey. It's out there. It's been great so far.
Well, that sounds like a pretty accelerated path to me. 7 to 8 years and you've got your first book published. That's quite an accomplishment.
Well, some people they write a lot faster than I do. Not me. My stories, although maybe this is an excuse, I think they're very detailed. They're layer upon layers, sub-stories, and I just love the detail. I love the sort of challenge of making fiction seem that much more real.
Mm-hmm. So you said when you had to make use of a library card for a while. What book, was there a particular book that you read, you say either it inspired you or you thought to yourself, I could do better? Or was it a combination of more than one book that brought this about for you?
I really discovered I don't want to say genre more than it is a style of writing. Just the books in the young adult fiction category.
Okay.
Which could range from anything from sci-fi to romance to coming of age, anything really. I just love young adult. I think I love it because the characters, they have big problems, big feelings. They're going through first experiences. And the pace of the writing is also easy. You just want to relax. You want to have fun with the story. It plays like a movie in your head. And where else was I going with that?
Oh, that's good. Was there a particular series or writers that you liked? I don't like, was Harry Potter like a thing that got you into young adult to begin with? Like, why did you zoom in on young adult?
One of my favorite books way back then, I Am the Messenger by, what was that, Mark Zuskas?
Okay, I'm not familiar with it. But...
Sorry, he also wrote The Book Thief.
Oh, okay, yes.
Sorry if I'm not pronouncing his name right. that was an amazing book. It was about these
Right.
Australian cab drivers that are sort of losers in life. And then the one cab driver starts getting these messages that are written on playing cards, and he has to discover what to do with those, which wasn't a book that I would probably pick up on my own, but I
Hmm.
was recommended it. And even the cover had a picture of a yellow cab on it, which I was
Right.
like, okay, but I'll try it out. That I'd say is probably one of my all-time favorite books, and I just love the twists and the turns in it. And yeah, written for a young adult audience. It's a very unique book.
Yeah, very cool. So you've got this urge now, or you feel like you can write this young adult type story. How much formal, like, did you have much formal training? Like you said, you took some courses at Mount Royal, and that was that the beginning of your training, or did you have like in your background education, were you an English major or anything like that? So I guess I'm just trying to find out how you were able to so quickly jump into the pool and get a book going.
I like to talk. I'm good at networking. Yeah, as I said, I went to Mount Royal, and it was a continuing education class that I took on creative writing.
Hmm.
And other than that, just getting into the writing community here in Calgary. If you know where to look and who to contact, there's so many writers out there that support each other, whether it be through better reading or
Right.
things like that you can really learn from. And that's where I kind of got my knowledge. My education, actually, I had, I think, a year of business administration, and I have another certificate from Mount Royal as well in event management when I did
Okay.
event planning, which really comes in handy when doing events like this, public speaking and promoting
Right.
yourself.
Right. So I'm wondering, event planning, does that help you with did that help you with the plot structure of your book, or am I reaching?
Ah, that's reaching a bit. Event
Is it?
planning in my writing career, I'd say it helps me just to be so detail oriented.
Okay.
What little detail here affects that detail down the road?
All right. So you've got all this, you've done all this background, you've networked, and you're all ready to write, and you pick to write a book about a young adult character, and the series is called Harmless. And how did that, what was the genesis for the idea of your book?
It came as a really simple idea. First of all, I'm like, I can write a book. I can do this. Okay.
No short stories, eh? Right into a book.
Well, in that writing class at Mount Royal, I did write some short stories, which were later incorporated into the book, into certain
Ah,
chapters.
very good.
But the idea originally came from there was this box that grants wishes.
Right.
That is, that is the very base of the book right there. And then I was like, okay, what's in the box? In the box, there's these four spirit animals. There's a white bear, white crow, a white deer, and a black wendigo. And I was like, okay, well, where would these things exist? In what culture? In what time? I set it in present day.
Hmm.
It's set in northern BC. And actually, in the town that it's written about, Hazelton, BC, that's a real place, they actually have spirit animals there. If you've been to the Calgary Zoo, they have what's called a Kermode bear, which is a black bear that's born white.
Oh, okay.
They're not albino, it's just sort of a genetic thing. And
Hmm.
Hazelton actually has the highest population in the world of those animals. So that's
Wow.
it.
Oh, very cool. So the idea for the animals and that was this. Where did you get that from? Was like, did you have to do a lot of research, or that you just sort of played around with some brainstorming, and this is the mix you came up with?
Brainstorming, things like that. As I said, I love the challenge of trying to make fiction believable and
Right.
realistic. And, Hazelton is a place with a little bit of magic, I think, in itself. I actually traveled to the place before I published the book, too. And there's a
Hmm.
museum there called the Kassan Museum. And they were most gracious to lend me one of their employees for a day. So I went there, and this girl, she took me to all the places on my list. She thought I was probably crazy, all the places I wanted to see. but yeah, I think that added some really cool details to the story too.
Okay. So, as a writer, what is your modus operandi? Are you a plotter? Are you a pantser? Are you a mix of somewhere in between?
I am much more of a pantser. I would love to be like a plotter and write everything down. And
Mm-hmm.
I try to do that, though, because now I'm obviously writing at a much faster pace than I used to. So
Right.
I have a skeleton of an outline, but basically when I know where it starts and I know where the story ends.
Right.
And when I go to write a chapter, I think about which characters are in it, what needs to be said because of what it leads to later in the book.
Okay. So now, how about your characters? What did you want to capture with the character, the lead character or protagonist of your novel?
Rachel? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I tried to add some depth to her. You know, she has a lot of backstory. Her brother's death, how that made her feel, the therapist she saw over the years. Although I didn't want her to be such a mopey character through the whole.
Right.
Although maybe she is a little at the beginning. She's had some sad things happen, but there's
Yes.
definitely a lot of strength and a lot of growth to her.
Mm-hmm.
I like a strong female character.
And is there a romance element to the story?
Oh, yes. I hate to sound all, and I hate to say it, okay,
Yeah.
Twilight-ish.
Right.
There's a love triangle, so it's either
Oh, okay.
Mason or Team Nate.
Right.
There are no vampires or werewolves in this story.
Okay. No sparkly vampires. That's good. Okay. So, what is it that's special about Rachel? What's her special talent?
Oh.
Or is that too much of a spoiler?
Now you got me thinking of what it leads into book 2.
Oh, okay.
Rachel. Something quirky or special about Rachel. The detail that I put in there is the therapist that she's seen before all this, that she refers back to all the time. She nicknames her the Weather Lady.
Okay.
And
That's cool.
One of her coping mechanisms is sort of, instead of expressing her real feelings, she refers to things as like the weather. Like if it's a cloudy, rainy day, it means she's sad or things
Right.
like that. Yeah, and it's just a little bit poetic throughout the book.
Okay, cool. So you've got all these elements together now, and how long did it take for you to write the book?
This one was a really long process, probably 2.5 years to really get through it. But I didn't just sit there and write it. Sometimes I would go 6-7 months without touching the manuscript at all.
Right. And was that just because of life, or you were blocked, or?
Oh no, life. My kids were little, and we were living in a different city in the time and moving to Calgary. We lived in Medicine Hat for a couple of years.
Right.
So moving back and forth and job changes and little kids, and it was life.
So you have at some point finished your manuscript. Now you're in Calgary, and you, as a networker, I assume by the time you had the book ready to open the door to show it to somebody else, you had built up that networks of beta readers and so forth, or was it already somebody that, like friends or family that you had for beta readers?
I met my beta readers. I met some of them on Twitter, some of them through networking here in Calgary. Yeah, things like that. But before I even published, I had really set up my author platform online too, made sure I had my website, my Twitter account, Facebook page, Instagram, all that, and was blogging a lot too. I find myself a little too busy to blog these days, but sometimes I get one out.
Yes. Okay. So you put your book, it's gone through the edits and whatnot. Got your feedback. Now, are you sending it out to agents or self-publishing it or both? Or
that's why it probably took me so long to get it published.
Right.
Not exactly. It's like, okay, it's finished. It's ready for the world. Now what do I do with it, right? How do you get it out there? I thought of self-publishing, and then after feedback from beta readers, they're like, no, why don't you just give traditional publishing a go? And I had interest from a small publisher in the States, so I went through their process of reviewing it, And they wanted to take it on, but there were a few major things that they wanted to change in the story. And at first I was like all excited. Yes, absolutely, sure, I'll change whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And they wanted to take out all the underage drinking. And it's not some drunken alcohol fest. That's not what my story is about. But there are a few scenes because my characters are in their last semester, just about to graduate high school.
Right.
And yes, the BC drinking age is 19 and they're 18, but close enough.
Yeah.
It happens.
Yes, it does.
And in fact, it happens much younger, but
yes.
They absolutely wouldn't publish it without me taking out the underage drinking, which I thought was funny because people also die in the book and they were okay with that.
Yes, there's strange things that will turn to editors put up their red flags that they don't want that in the story. But I don't know if it's something specific to the States as well. Maybe they're more prudent about that than we are in Canada. I don't know. But that is interesting. I would have thought it would have been sexual stuff. Or when I interviewed one of the writers, her book was about a teenage serial killer. And that obviously was very difficult to shop around.
Kelly Sharon.
Yes.
Yes, her and I are good friends.
Oh, that's good. Yes. One of your networking friends.
That's right. She's also a better reader.
Oh, good. Good. Yeah. So you initially thought you had something and then I guess you started to have second thoughts?
Yeah. So I just couldn't do it. And I looked at some of their other titles and I noticed that a lot of them were Christian titles, which there's nothing wrong with that. It's just not even close to the same genre as what I'm writing in. So I just decided to part ways, friendly like. Mm-hmm. And then I spent the next a year shopping it to agents, like querying to agents.
Right.
And, a few bites here and there. Nothing really came of it, though, like nothing. So I was like, okay. And then another good friend of mine, I was like, well, I'm done. It's been a year. I put in my time, tried to query, get an agent. I'm going to self-publish. This will be good. So my friend Adam Dries, he taught me how to grassroots self-publish. And I'm so glad that I have learned everything because if there's ever a quirk or anything goes wrong, I know how to fix it myself now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I learned Scrivener in the process. I know how to make ebooks, print books. Right. Yeah.
Very good. Very good. So you did end up self-publishing then?
I did. Yes.
And that seems to be a lot of writers are taking nowadays. And I think in this day and age, it's just as valid a path as any. I don't think the initial stigma that was there exists anymore.
I don't think so either. I think you're right. Self-publishing really has come a long way. People are using professional editors, professional cover designers. The product that's coming out in self-publishing now it's unique. It has its own flavor, right? Stories that maybe aren't for the mass market, but hold their own.
Yes, and thank you. You just twigged my memory. I forgot to ask you a couple of questions there about your editing process and your book covers and that. Did you hire a professional editor and book cover artist, or did you do that yourself?
No, absolutely. As I said, I used to be an executive assistant for a media company, so I also have a few connections there. So my friend Brianna Shertlin did the book cover, and she also did the lovely book trailer, if you've seen that as well.
Yes, I did. Yes, it was. Was that you narrating, or was that somebody else?
No, that's a girl. That's an actress out of Hawaii, actually.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Wow.
From Fiverr.com.
Wow.
Yeah, I am
That's
resourceful.
Cool. Yes.
And my editor, she lives in Vancouver. Yeah, and I found her through a friend. Yeah.
I see. Okay. So your book has been out since when? Was it September?
June.
June.
The official launch was September.
Mm-hmm.
It did come out in June just for reasons that I knew I would be traveling for probably 4 or 5 weeks straight in the summer.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to make sure all the bugs were out before I left, not trying to scramble when I came back, trying to get kids into school and knowing that I had the help and the support to go through the publication process in June, and I didn't really at the end of August or September.
Right. What service did you go through? Amazon or smash words, or what did you use?
So create space.
Create space. Okay.
Create space, and then Amazon. So Kindle is available on Amazon. The Create Space paperback books are available on Amazon, and then it's available on Kobo, Barnes and Noble, Chapters Indigo. I think that's it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's good. Very impressive. So I've been talking a little more about the work side of things. Now, the book itself, can you give like a high level, I don't know if you have an elevator pitch or a summary that you could tell the readers about, like what exactly your first book is about?
Okay. Yeah, no problem. I am well practiced at this. I've done many. So,
okay.
In my own words, without reading the back of the cover, it is about Rachel Barnes. She's this disconnected high school senior, and she's going through some tragedy in life. Her brother has died, her parents have gotten divorced, and she ends up moving from Vancouver to this little northern town called Hazelton, BC. So just as her life should be settling down, becoming normal, her and her new friends discover this spirit box that's able to grant wishes. And every time a wish is granted, a spirit is released. And her friend becomes sort of taken over by this malevolent wendigo spirit. So the rest of the story is just her trying to save her friend from this sort of possession and her getting over her own troubles.
Very cool. And this is the first book in a series, correct?
Yes. I'm really hoping that the second one will be out in the spring, summer of 2018. Second one's called Mavens, and the third one's called Tempest.
So this is a trilogy, or is that just as far as you've planned ahead?
So far, it's a trilogy.
Okay, and you see where things go.
We'll see where it goes.
Right. Okay, and well, I wish you the best of luck with that. And I'm just curious I don't know if you have the time or if you have the idea. I'm sure you have plenty of ideas, but are there other books or series that you're thinking of working on or are working on?
You know what? I have one in the works. I like dystopian type stories.
So do a lot of people.
Yeah.
So that's probably a good market to write to.
And the story is really in its infancy, so I can't say much about it. But hopefully it'll turn into more than one book.
Right. And is it also a YA book?
Yes. Pretty much everything I write is YA.
Okay.
As I said, I just love that style of writing, the quickness of it. And
right.
Yeah.
Okay. So is there any, because I don't know, like with your reading of that, you mentioned a book thief writer. Do you do a lot of non-fiction reading as well, or you just because like the writer's mantra is you have to read a lot and write a lot. I'm just curious for your reading side of work ethic of what you do for that.
Not anymore. In the beginning, I'd read a lot of books on how to write well and stuff like that. But now, if I'm reading something, it's fiction.
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten into a few graphic novel series too.
Oh, okay.
Are excellent. Revival is one of them. That's sort of like a zombie series. And yeah, there are a few others out there that are amazing. I'm not so much into the superhero ones, but it's fiction if I'm reading anything. And I always carry around like a little notebook or my phone. I say if anybody looks at the notes on my phone, they'll probably think I'm crazy because just little tidbits, little sparks of whatever that spark my creative writing juices. I'm constantly writing that stuff down.
Very good. Okay, I think I've ran through my list of questions. Is there anything that you haven't been asked that you would like to mention at this point? Or?
Well, I know you've pre-recorded a reading of me reading my book. It is sort of in the middle, chapter 11. Do you want me to give a short little,
setup? Sure, that would be great.
Yeah, since it's chapter 11, so people won't be too lost. So, middle of the book. So it's all first person, Rachel's thoughts and stuff like that. And the scene that I will read is from right after the scene where her and Nate go to the dance and Mason has sort of rescued her, but she's not very happy that Mason has rescued her and in what way that he rescued her. So that's sort of where we start this scene.
Cool. Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you, Catherine. I want to thank you for your time.
You too, yeah.
Yeah, that was very very interesting. I just find it fascinating to talk to writers because they all seem to come to sitting down and writing from so many different avenues. Like there's not just one formula that will work for everyone. And if there was, of course, we'd all want to bottle it and sell it. But everybody I talk to, they always have a different story of how they actually got in front of a blank screen to start typing things into it.
Absolutely.
Alrighty, so thank you again, and we're going to leave everybody with Catherine's reading of her first book in her series, Harmless. Thanks, Katherine.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
We hurtled down the road, driving way too fast over freshly graded gravel. Mason let me drive, keeping up the charade of being too drunk. His truck feels huge underneath me, like it could crush anything in its path. I can't make it devour the road fast enough. My clear skies are gathering dark clouds of what-ifs. What if Mason wasn't there tonight? What if I just stayed inside the dance hall? I screamed beneath my clenched teeth, slamming both feet on the brake, feeling the rush go through me. The whole truck fishtails touching both sides of the gravel road. I don't care. I don't freaking care. I want all of this, now. What if Mason had no powers? What if wendigos didn't exist? What if I had never been given that damn box? Throwing the truck in park, I unbuckle my seatbelt and reach for the door handle. A blast of cool night air slaps me in the face. Feels good. Feels real. I don't bother to shut the truck door, although I envision slamming it shut again and again and then ripping it off like some incredible Hulk in some fantastic fit of rage. What if I'd never made those wishes? What if I'd never moved here? What if my parents never got divorced? I don't run. There's no point. I can't outrun him. I can't outrun this. I slam my knees down into the gravel road. The pain feels good. The light from the truck shines on my back. What a strange shadow I cast. What are you doing? Mason calmly walks up to me, gravel crunching beneath his feet. What if my brother didn't fight so much with my parents? What if he still lived with us? I'm kneeling in the middle of the road. I can see that. His hand brushes my shoulder and every cell inside me jumps. My world is in chaos. I am a pebble under the rubble. You were going to kill that guy. The words taste dry in my mouth. But I didn't. You would have, if I hadn't been there. And that thing with the knife, that wasn't an accident. That was you. I gag on dust. Metallic bile creeps up the back of my throat as I instant replay the sound of crunching bone and metal slicing clean through flesh. The cold look in Mason's eyes speaks volumes. He doesn't have to say it. He did it. Accidents don't happen in my world anymore. The dead night air hangs between us. He was going to hurt you, Rachel. He was going to do things to you, things you'd never get over. He deserved it. Things have already happened to me I'll never get over. A hot tear burns to escape, but I don't let it. He deserved to, according to me. That's who. His words are so cold they slice through me. You, I say. Would you rather I'd done nothing, just stood by and watched? How about a thanks, Mason? What if I wasn't so afraid of the dark? What if my shadow wasn't so scary? I told you. I would have been fine. I don't need your help. I can't stop shaking. The rocks are digging into my knees. What if he found out what you are, Mason? I stand up, one knee first, then the other. He doesn't help me up. I can do it myself. You don't need my help back there? He could easily take one step towards me. He could wrap his arms around me, numb the pain, all of it. I want him to. I clench my teeth so hard I think they might crack. What if my brother wasn't dead? What if it hadn't been my fault? My face is wet, but it's not raining. Make it stop raining. This was never the forecast. Make the dark clouds go away. He stands firm in front of me. I'm sorry, I gasp between gross sobs. I don't know what I need. I step towards him, wrapping my arms around him, burying my face in his chest. I'm on the verge of ugly cry when his arms fold around me, a wave of calm claiming all of me. My monsoon subsides to a light drizzle. What if I didn't need him so much?